Harrison coming to you from Cloud Expo in Santa Clara, California. And I'm joined today by Jamal Mazhar, founder and CEO of Kaavo. Welcome, Jamal.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Absolutely.
So what does Kaavo do, and how do you guys fit into the cloud space?
So if you look at the cloud space, you have virtualized data center. Everybody is familiar with virtualization. Then next level above is what we call infrastructure as a service. And people are building infrastructure as a service to get the resources on demand. So if you go to Amazon EC2, an example of infrastructure as a service in a public cloud space, you have infrastructure as a service in a private cloud space. But when you go to infrastructure as a service, after you get the resources or servers, you want to deploy or manage or run your applications. So we provide the automation for deploying and managing applications in the cloud, so that it makes it easy for you to run your custom app, software as a service, or platform as a service on top of infrastructure as a service layer.
Okay, and there's a lot of hype still around cloud and this concept. What are how do you differentiate? What does your company do that sort of stands apart in the industry?
So I think the main thing, if you look at a higher level, and then I will drill down a little bit more deeper. At a higher level, everybody is building cloud infrastructure bottom up. So people are building virtualization, then infrastructure as a service layer. We are coming from a top-down perspective to manage and automate the deployment and management of applications. So the thing that is differentiating for us is that we look everything from the context of application. So you look at it, what are the resources that I need to do to deploy my applications in the cloud? You configure that, and we take that information. We can automate the deployment of that. So in the context of, I think, when you are going to the cloud, the biggest shift that is happening here is that before the cloud, applications were tightly tied to the servers they were running on. When you go to the cloud, applications are no longer tied to the servers. They are actually independent. They can run on different servers. So you can run on Amazon, you can run on Rackspace, or even you can run in your private cloud, or even in your own cloud infrastructure. When you start and stop an application, you may not get the same exact server resources because these are all virtual servers. So the idea here is that you should be able to deploy and manage application from the context of the application. And we have a very sophisticated provisioning technology which automates the deployment of the application and also automate the runtime management. So you have an autopilot capability, which just like when we fly on the plane, and your plane most of the time flies on autopilot because there is a pre-programmed response that if wind direction changes, you do certain action. In our application, we provide the framework where you can automate the responses to predefined events, so your application service levels can be met or in an autopilot without human intervention.
Okay, and security is still very much a concern, especially on the enterprise level in terms of adoption. What progress have you seen in that way, and is this still a hurdle?
So security, I think there are two things in security. So, part one is a perception issue, because obviously it's new technology and people have concerns. So if you think of it, cloud, one way of looking at it is that initially when banks come out, people were worried about putting money in the bank. So now you're looking at putting data in the cloud, which it's a similar analogy. That is it safer there, or is it safer in my own data center? This is a study done by University of Berkeley which talks about that if you have put encrypted data in the public cloud, it is probably more safer than unencrypted data in your private cloud. And then also within the private cloud, there are tools and technologies that are available to secure your data. So it's more of, I think, like a technology-wise, the tools are there, but it's awareness issue on how do you use it and how do you properly configure them. And over the period of time, industry will overcome this issue. But part of it is also perception issue, and I think that's like, we have to find a way where we can alleviate this fear. I went to one restaurant which is like one of the older restaurants, and it's an old bank. They have a bank which was converted to restaurant, and they have a big huge vault in the front. So kind of like give people perception that, hey, if you put money in the vault, it's safe. So nowadays you don't care. Most of the people do online banking. So I think same thing with the cloud is part of it is a perception issue. Over the period of time, people will find that there are technologies, there are tools which makes data very secure, whether you're using public or private cloud. So then this issue will no longer be an issue.
Okay, and there's also maybe a misconception that cloud is complex, and we're hearing a lot about simplification of the process. So what do enterprises need to consider before they move to the cloud?
So I think anytime there is a very fundamental change or shift in technology, technology part is always the easiest part, is the processes and other thing that goes around it is much harder. So when people are looking at moving to the cloud, they do need to look at how they do certain things in terms of change management, how they do their overall IT management. Because most of the companies, if you look in enterprise IT, they have their own data centers, and then they have application teams. So when you are creating a cloud, even if you're creating a private cloud, you need to have better SLAs between how the application teams and data team interacts, because now you are providing the application teams a self-serve model. And then also there are how people do change management. That also changes, because before you have one group that goes and manages all the patch management and deploying and configuring application. Now when you're going to the cloud, your application teams which are running their own applications, they have to manage in some ways responsibility of making sure that their applications are properly patched and configured. So from the role of the team which is providing the cloud comes more like audit and control, and rather than like actually performing. So I think overall the processes around how the enterprise ID works has to change. So there is some complexity around that, and that's why there is like a little bit people are taking baby steps in moving towards the cloud.
Right.
But in terms of technology, I think the technology is getting it right is the easiest part.
Okay, and what's next for Kaavo in 2011?
I mean, we are looking forward to continue, grow, and do great things, and especially provide some more automation and management capability. Have probably working on some of the partnerships which will be coming up in terms of with system integrators, and also some bigger customer announcements.
Okay, well, thank you, Jamal.
Oh, thank you.
I've been speaking with Jamal Mazhar, founder and CEO of Kaavo, and I'm Erin Harrison, coming to you from Cloud Expo in Santa Clara, California.